Hello, beautiful souls. How are you? I'm Latoya. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you've continued to be on this journey with me. Today, I'm going to be taking you through a sort of design to inception journey of the Hellshire sunset shawl. I have to think about it when I say it like that, because normally I'm just say the Hellshire sunset shawl, but I can't be going out in public just telling people that's the name, because that's not how people are going to pronounce it. But anywho, so first I'm going to show you my little sketch of when the idea came to me. Like I ran and I got my little book and I wrote back down my little sketch. I'm going to show you that. I can't draw, okay? So don't hold this drawing against me. There we go. And then there's also a date of when I started it. So this is my little original sketch of what the image that I got in my mind. So that was my sketch. And as it noted there, I've done that in February. So wrote down the sketch, and the yarn I use for this shawl is the fanciest yarn I have worked with so far. And to be fair, it's not like super fancy. It is, oh my God, and I've forgotten exactly what's in it. I think it's like superwash merino, superwash wool, hand dyed, but it's from We Crochet. And it was very nice. And I don't necessarily like thin yarns, because if you look at it, like, let me get all up close and personal. It is fingering weight, so it's very fine. Like the strand is very fine, and I don't like working with fine yarns because my hands are so big and it's hard to hold. It's a whole thing. Anywho, so drew my little sketch and had this yarn for over a year, and it's like, what am I gonna do with it? And then finally I was like, oh, I can make the shawl with that yarn. So I whipped it out, kicked it up, and just went to town. And that is usually my design process. Is just like, I'll get the idea, I'll sketch it down, and then I'll just like pick up the yarn and the hook and I'll just start making the thing. And I will try as I'm going along to make notes, but sometimes I get in a zone and I'm like 20 rows past the last point that I noted down. And then I'm like, what did I do? So then I have to go back and try to figure it out. But usually once I start making, I can't stop. So I will most times just make the whole thing. And if a section isn't working out, then I'll pull out the stitches and back it up and then go again. And it took me, I don't know, about a week and a half from when I first started to when I finished it. Because obviously, like, sometimes it doesn't work. You gotta pull out the stitches and start again and do all that stuff. But yeah, so it took me a week and a half to do it. And then after I did it, then I had to block it, which is I just put it in warm water with a wool wash, just soak it for 20 minutes, and then you gotta squeeze it out, use a towel, get all the excess water out of it, and then you lay it out on what's called blocking mats. You pin it down and lay it flat, stretch it out, make it look nice and pretty, and then let it dry. And then once it was dry, I had to sit there with it and my little notes and going through it row by row, counting the stitches, writing down the parts I missed, and making sure that I had all the information I needed to go and sit down and write the pattern. So that's what I did. So once I had gotten to the point where I felt like I had figured out what I did to make it, then I went to the computer, type it all up, and then send it to tech editor. And we together went back and forth for about a week, just kind of saying, she would tell me, double check this, and then I would take it and I'll go and I'll check and then go back to her and say, okay, well, that's good, or no, we gotta change that, and do all that stuff. And then once we together felt like we worked out all the initial kinks, I sent it to the testers. And as I spoke, I think in the last video, one of the testers came back and she was telling me, like how when she first started out, triangle shawls were difficult for her. And this one, she would have wished this would have been the first one she worked on, because it's so well, like laid out that it was a lot easier for her to follow. So that was good, and that was great feedback for me to, like keep doing what I'm doing and not just think that because something is very simple, nobody's gonna want to do it. So yeah, so it's still with the testers, and I'm working through another sample with them. I think I said that too. Working through another sample just to kind of see. So then when I get it back from the testers, I am going to have to go back on the computer and just make all the necessary changes based on all the feedback that I got from them, and then send it back to the tech editor just to make sure that everything looks great, all my stitch counts are correct, my abbreviations, all that stuff is clear, and nothing's duplicated or nothing's missing. And then once that's good, then I can hit publish and put it out into the world. But what I wanted to also tell you is how I came up with the name, because Hellshire or Hellshire is a beach close to where I grew up in Jamaica. And how I landed on the name was, firstly, I made the thing and I had no idea what I was going to call it. So I made it, and it sat there for a little bit, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to call it. I dabbled with a few other names, and I can't remember what I was doing or what I was watching, and I saw a sunset on a beach. And I was like, oh, that reminds me of that shawl I just made. And that was it. It's just like, oh, it reminds me of like, like a beach sunset vibe kind of thing. So I was like, oh. And then it hit me. Hellshire. Man, I love that beach. It's like every time I go home, I gotta go back. And you would think I love it for the beach. Actually, no, I love it for the food, because I love food. So whenever I'm gonna go Hellshire, I'm gonna forget my fried fish and my festival, and so many good memories. So when I noticed that beach sunset and that vibe, and just like, it was bringing me back home. And I was like, yeah, I feel like I should name this piece after that one beach that is just like means the world to me. And there's plenty of other beautiful beaches in Jamaica, but it's like, like that's the beach where I grew up. It's like almost very often. I can't say every Sunday, but we went pretty often when I was growing up. So it holds a lot of good memories for me, and this is gonna hold some good memories for me as well. So I felt like putting the two together was like, it was a no-brainer. So that's how I landed on the name. And yeah, so we're still working through it, and I haven't set a release date yet. Poor planning on my part, but I think it's probably gonna be like early May. I don't know, sometime around then, which will be close to my birthday, so that'll be fun. But yeah, so we're still working it, and I just felt like, like I'd share sort of my design process. I'm going to try to go more in depth as I go along, because every time I make something, it's just like, I will see something, or I'll get a yarn, or I'll see a stitch pattern, and it's just like, ooh, I have this idea, and then I just make it. But I'm going to try to be better at documenting my steps, just to kind of, like show you a little bit behind the scenes of what sparked the idea, and kind of like, like get the ball rolling, going from there to when the piece is finished. So that's what I'm going to try to do a lot here on the channel, as well as, I don't know, see what else comes up. Because I feel I had thought of doing stitch tutorials and that sort of thing, but there's so many other great crochet teachers on YouTube. And what I've decided is just like, if I have a pattern and I know like someone that I learned from has a good video on how to do that stitch or whatever, then I'll link that with it, rather than me trying to do like a whole nother one. But if it's something where I did something and I haven't seen it, then I will do a video just to show anyone that's working up the pattern how to do that particular thing, because I feel like that just makes more sense rather than just duplicating a whole bunch of stuff that's already out there. So yeah, so that's where we're going with that, and I will kind of keep you posted on release of this guy and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's all for today. So until next time, take care and bye for now.